Tom Brady finally made his return to Foxboro in one of the most hyped up games of the last decade. It was a hard fought battle. It was an ugly game from Tom Brady, but the Buccaneers escaped Foxboro with the win 19-17 over the New England Patriots. We dive into that game right here on the Locked On Bucs podcast.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to the Locked On Bucs podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms now, including YouTube. I'm James Yarko, joined as always by David Harrison. You can find everything that we are doing over at bucsnation.com. Make sure you follow along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarko_Bucs, at DHarrison82, and at Bucs_Nation. David, before we dive in to our takes on the game, as we always do on the Locked On Bucs podcast, let's kick it over to our voicemail line and hear from a Buccaneers fan and their reaction to the game.
David, James, it's Greco. Man, I'm so glad that we won. But boy, do we have a whole lot of work to do. Banged up? Man, this is looking crazy. I'm glad we got the win. Go Bucs.
All right, Greco, appreciate the phone call, buddy. On a historic night in Foxboro, Massachusetts, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got the scoring started with a 29-yard field goal by kicker Ryan Succop. Of course, the kick and the 3 points weren't the biggest part of that drive when it happened, because during the drive leading to the 3 points, Brady connected with wide receiver Mike Evans on a 28-yard pass and catch eventually after some spotting issues, giving the legendary quarterback 80,359 career passing yards, surpassing Drew Brees by 1 yard to become the NFL's all-time leading passer. From there, it was game on, as they say. A New England Patriots rookie quarterback, Mac Jones, responded by giving his team the lead midway through the second quarter on an 11-yard touchdown pass to tight end Hunter Henry. Another Ryan Succop field goal made it 7-6 New England at the half. Only one score in the third quarter, and it belonged to the Bucs. Running back Ronald Jones found the end zone from 8 yards out, and Tampa Bay took a 13-7 lead into the fourth quarter. From there, things got fun or less fun, depending on how you view it, as the Pats and Bucs traded scores, with New England putting up 10 points in the fourth quarter. A touchdown pass from Jones to tight end Jonnu Smith, and a Nick Folk 27-yard field goal got them their points. For Tampa Bay, it was 2 field goals, one from 27 and another from 48 yards out, both of them made by Succop. The final field goal from Succop was the 48-yarder and gave the Buccaneers a 19-17 lead, which became the final score after former Bucs kicker Nick Folk missed a 56-yard kick as it doinked off the left upright into the Foxboro night, never to be heard or seen from. Again, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers improved to 3-1 through 4 games of the 2021 NFL season, while the New England Patriots fall to 1-3. Next up for the Bucs, a home contest against the Miami Dolphins. Greco shared his thoughts, James. We're going to share our thoughts here on this episode. We're here from some other Bucs fans as well. But real quick, before we dive into the Buccaneers, let's talk about the opponent, the New England Patriots. For one, the play on the field, but two, the welcome for Tom Brady, not just by the fan base, but from also from the team. What were your thoughts on what went down in Foxborough on Sunday night?
I'll tell you what, the fan rope-a-dope that they ran on Tom Brady was outstanding. They do the tribute video. There's Brady chants. He's running out of the tunnel and everybody's cheering and hooping and hollering. And then Tom Brady sets foot on the field to take the first snap for the Buccaneers offense. The boo birds were drowning everything out. It was like, okay, we gave you your props. We showed our appreciation. We showed our love for the 20 years that you played here. Now you're just like any other guy who comes in here to try to beat the Patriots, and we are going to boo the heck out of you. Now, I thought it was fantastic. It was great gamesmanship. But my thoughts on the Patriots are simply this. They, again, we've seen this all 4 weeks. Well, 3 of the 4 weeks, I'll say. A great defensive game plan. The Bucs had no problem moving the ball up and down the field between the 20s, but they got into the red zone and that Patriots defense really clamped down. They were doing a lot of things that they were showing pre-snap that made Brady think he knew what was going to come. And then they changed it the last second. They were running a lot of things out of different looks, trying to create some confusion, create some chaos for the Buccaneers offense. And it worked really, really well. Mac Jones looked fantastic. I'm not going to get too deep into him looking fantastic because of the Bucs defense. I'll have some thoughts on that later. But Mac Jones looked poised, ready for the primetime stage, and overall looked pretty good against the Buccaneers. So it was a heavyweight bout, man. That's the best way you could put it. There was left hook, right hook, left hook, right jab, and finally Suckup was able to land the knock. Well, the left upright landed the knockout blow, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I thought that the New England Patriots, from an organizational standpoint, first and foremost, really did a good job of kind of showing reverence and honoring everything that Tom had done for them and during his career in the 20 years, and honoring the fact that they won 6 championships together. And then, yeah, the fan base. I mean, that was kind of the question of this whole thing is like, that a lot of the fans have love for Tom Brady and for obvious reasons, but how much was that love going to override the fact that they're still Patriots fans and they're still in New England? They still want to see their brand and their logo being successful. Obviously, I think most of them is like, well, if the Pats can't win it, then hopefully Tom wins it, and I get all that. But I think at the end of the day, on this Sunday night football matchup, they want their Patriots to win the game and come away with the win, obviously. So I thought it was really interesting how that dynamic kind of went. You saw all the video testimonials and all that stuff, and then you heard them, cheering for him as he ran out for the warm ups and everything. What I thought was real interesting, James, was how they kind of mentioned a couple times during the broadcast that Tom Brady didn't do his normal early workout and warm up on the field. And I think that's kind of indicative of the emotions of this whole thing. And, he tried to play it down. I listened to his podcast and he tried to say, it's another game you got to get ready for. And of course, there's history and da da da. Really, at the end of the day, you just want to keep your routine and do all that. But really, I think at the end of it was just one of those moments that you can't possibly try to hide that type of emotion. You go another game of emotion today. I'm just full of covering games full of emotion today because Taylor Heineke, Washington football team quarterback, returning to his home state of Georgia, returning an hour away from where he grew up playing football, and now he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. And they kind of talked about the story of him crashing on his sister and his brother-in-law's couch, and how his brother-in-law literally had to wake him up every morning just to get him going at his lowest point. I mean, there's just a lot of emotion in this game. I think it shows the human side of it, and I think that's important because sometimes we forget that human side of it. And so a lot of human emotion going into it. But at the end of the day, I mean, both the teams that I cover came out with wins. So maybe I'm the good luck charm here, but not beautiful wins, not pretty wins. You're not going to put them up on the mantle. But like you said, they come out to win 19-17. They're 3-1. And I was talking to some friends of mine in the DMs a little bit before we started recording. They've got 4 very winnable games coming up, including a division match against the New Orleans Saints and Jameis Winston. So I mean, this team could be 8-1, even with everything going on around it. I think that really kind of shows, as frustrated as some people are, we're going to get into that a little bit. This is still a very good, very solid team from the foundation, even some of the depth and some of the coaches. The fact that everything that's happening with this team and all the disappointment, I guess if you want to call it that, time with this team, they still have a very, very, not to say easy, but easily understandable or easily statable road to 8-1. And I think that's pretty amazing when you think about the Buccaneers doing this.
Yeah, I was on Locked On today with Bo Brock, and we talked about exactly that. We talked about the Bucks have a get right stretch coming up here where they can start to get a little bit more healthy. They can get Richard Sherman a little bit more acclimated to the defensive scheme. He had no business being out there. We're going to get into that in just a little bit, but because of circumstances, he was out there. So yeah, I mean, as bleak as things can look, they certainly are on a path that could lead to them being, right back in that number 1 spot in the NFC. We're going to get into plenty more of that here in just a minute. But of course, we have an incredible app that everyone who buys gas needs to know about, and that is Get Upside. Our listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. All you have to do is download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use the promo code Touchdown and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free and use promo code touchdown to get up to 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot, that's me. I drive a lot. That's the life of a hockey dad. Go Miami. Uh, they're making up to $200 to $300 a month in cash back. There's absolutely no catch. The cash gets added back to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, your PayPal. You can redeem it for gift cards from places like Amazon or other brands. All you have to do is download the free app, Get Upside from the Play Store or the App Store, and use promo code touchdown for 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. Again, promo code touchdown.
All right, moving in segment 2 here at the Locked On Bucs podcast. Victory Monday, James Yarko, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeat the New England Patriots. I am David Harrison, joined by James. And on Twitter, you can find us at dharrison82, at jyarko_Bucs, at Locked On Bucs. If you're watching us on YouTube, welcome. And you can see our Twitter handles right under our ugly mugs. If you're listening in the traditional format, hopefully you're paying attention. Shoot us a follow, interact with us as much as you can. We love all interaction from Buccaneers fans. And of course, we appreciate you guys making the Locked On Bucs podcast your first listen every day, free and available on all platforms. And like James said earlier, now on YouTube, as amazingly disappointing as that might be for some people out there. But James, we've got some more fans. Hopefully they're not the disappointed kind, because again, their Buccaneers came out with a win, as ugly as it might have been. So let's hear from our buddy Yusuf.
Wow. Just wow. A win is a win is a win. This is Yusuf out here in Phoenix. I said before the season started that I thought these two games would be two of the toughest, I thought, in the Rams and the Patriots. I thought we would lose against the Rams, and I was hoping we would win against the Patriots, but it wasn't a lock for me. People all week were telling me Bucs are going to blow out the Patriots. And I said, it's going to be a lot closer than you think. That Patriots secondary is legit. And the chess game that happened tonight was unbelievable. We have a lot to work on the defense and offense, obviously, particularly the defense with losing Carlton Davis to it looks like a quad injury. Hopefully he'll be okay. Hopefully it's nothing serious, but I didn't look very good. So prayers out to him, and let's hope for the best. I thought a couple of guys that really stepped up for the offense today was Leonard Fournette and AB. They made some clutch catches, with AB making a few great catches tonight. But anyways, guys, as always, go Bucs. But I'm also going to bring back my mantra from last year. Not getting too high, but not getting too low either. Anyways, guys, go Bucs.
All right, Yusuf, appreciate you, man. I love that. Not getting too high, not getting too low. That's a great way of looking at things, honestly. I mean, until your team is winning the Super Bowl. Hopefully, I can't remember if we got a voicemail immediately after the Super Bowl last year. Hopefully, Yusuf turned up a little bit after that one. That's when you want to get too high. That's when you want to enjoy it, the best way you can. And James, a lot is going to be said about this Buccaneers team and the way that they won. Look, a week ago, the Los Angeles Rams, they pretty well manhandled the Buccaneers, right? They end up taking the unanimous number one spot in the Locked On Power Rankings, and then they go out there and they look pretty vulnerable against the Arizona Cardinals. And we know the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, as good as they've played so far, they've got some vulnerabilities. Granted, they're undefeated, but there's no impermeable teams out there. Everybody's got their weaknesses, but everybody's also got their solid points here. So let's start with the offense. Tom Brady, coming home again, and honestly, by now, I'm kind of happy that this is going to be one of the last conversations we have about the homecoming, but it's a good moment for Tom. I'm glad he had him. I'm glad his parents were there, and I'm glad that fans who had the opportunity to come back there show their thankfulness to him, despite the fact that he no longer wears their colors, got that opportunity. But I'm looking forward to Miami, James. But let's talk about this Buccaneers offense from Sunday night. What did you see? What did you think?
Can you imagine real quick if the Bucks and Patriots played in the Super Bowl? Can you
Uh,
imagine 2 weeks of
uh,
that? I couldn't talk about Brady's return to Foxboro anymore. Like
I
I
might
would,
get the flu the 2 weeks. Like,
yeah,
we have to see if Bailey Adams from Bucks Nation wants to make his YouTube debut, at least on the Locked On Bucs podcast.
oh man. As far as the offense was concerned, that was to me, that was the weak side of the ball for the Buccaneers on Sunday night. They did finish with 380 yards, but they were 9 for 19 on third down. They did get the 91 rushing yards out of Leonard Fournette, but no touchdowns through the air. None. The one touchdown in this game came from Ronald Jones, and it was a matter of not being able to finish. Antoine Winfield Jr. set this team up with not one, but 2 takeaways. He had an interception. He forced a fumble that was recovered by Richard Sherman. What did the Bucks do with it? Punted it right back to the Patriots. The offense couldn't finish when they got into the red zone. A big part of that is you see how much they miss Rob Gronkowski in those situations. You see how much he opens things up for other guys like Mike and Chris. And they even had a goal to go situation where they pull Antonio Brown off the field and replaced him with Tyler Johnson. I just didn't really understand what they were trying to accomplish, what they were trying to do. But Tom Brady was just off the whole night. He was throwing the ball too high for some of these guys. Some of the reads were off. He looked rushed. He looked flustered. There were a couple of times that he was escaping from the pocket and trying to make plays. We had balls bouncing off of guys' hands and off their fingertips. It was a mess offensively. Luckily, they got enough to get it done, but it was rough.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly kind of reminded me a little bit of going to work with a hangover. And I don't know if you've ever done that, but I've done that before. And it's kind of one of those things where you're like, look, if I can just get out of here without ruining my career, I'll be okay. And I don't think Tom was hungover or anybody else was, just for the record. But yeah, very, very almost sluggish looking, and I'm sure the weather didn't help either. But yeah, not a beautiful performance by any means for this Buccaneers offense. But looking over at the defense, I mean, listen, especially later in the game there, and I know that the Patriots were putting up some points and they were doing some things, and Mac Jones was looking pretty good, and a lot of people were getting frustrated, especially on Twitter, and a lot of fans were getting frustrated. I mean, at one point, I had tweeted that, come on defense, like, they put the defense back on the field, and I think that at the time the Buccaneers had a slim lead, and we're hoping to preserve the lead. And our good buddy, diehard Buccaneers fan Brent Allen, actually tweeted back at me at the Locked On Bucs Twitter account and was like, "What for? Like, why do you want the defense back on the field?" I was like, "Well, hopefully you can preserve the lead." They didn't, but that's okay. But listen, you just gave up 17 points to a team in the National Football League in a time where 23, 25 points is the average. I mean, I think coming into the weekend, 23 points was the scoring average. And I get nobody wants this defense to be average, but like Youssef just kind of chronicled there, I mean, you're already out SMB, you're already out Jamel Dean. Carlton Davis gets hurt. Eventually, Antoine Winfield Jr. gets hurt. Richard Sherman is out there with 2 days of practice.
Mhm.
I mean, listen, could Jason Light have drafted another cornerback? Absolutely. But who are you giving up? Who's the draft pick that you're giving back? Maybe Jalen Darden. Okay, but you think a late round cornerback is really going to make that big of an impact here versus like a Ross Cockrell or a D Delaney? I know the Kyle Trask pick has been brought up over the last week as a potential spot, but I look at this defense and I applaud the guys who were on the field, who did what they did for the way they could. Look, here, I'm going to break some stuff down for you. The New England Patriots, I love numbers. I'm trying to make this quick. New England Patriots threw the ball or dropped back to pass 76% of their snaps on Sunday night. And with that, Mac Jones threw for 275 yards, despite the fact that their passing was about 80% of their offense. He threw for 275 yards. Again, in a time where 300 yards isn't even really all that amazing anymore, right? And he completed 78% of his passes. That's amazing. But he solely threw for 275 yards. Tom Brady, like you kind of mentioned, he completed 51% of his passes. If he had thrown 56 passes, that would have accounted for the exact same amount of offense that Mac Jones dropping back did. 56 pass attempts. And if he would have completed 28 of those, which is about 51%, James, he would have thrown for 340 yards. So that's the difference in productivity. Even as much as the offense struggled for the Buccaneers, it's still night and day when you're talking about Tom Brady versus Mac Jones. And this defense is a big part of that.
Yeah, well, you look at this defense, and they do lose Carlton Davis on a special teams play, which is brutal. So Richard Sherman, with his couple of days within the building and within the system, is now your number one corner. You're out there with Ross Cockrell and D. Delaney and Pierre Desir. But this defense comes into the game with 3 sacks on the season. They get 4. They get 4 on Sunday night. 2 of them from rookie Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. And, I was seeing all over Twitter, this defense can't stop anybody. This defense can't do anything. They allowed 3 scoring drives. 3. They had 2 takeaways that the offense didn't capitalize on.
Yep.
They had third down stops where they were getting the ball back and the offense couldn't capitalize it. The defense showed up and did their job. It may not have been pretty all the time. They may have gotten, hamper. We could be having a very different conversation about some really bad calls on that final drive if Folk doesn't miss that field goal.
Mhm.
But by and large, given the situation that the secondary was in and the situation that the Bucs were in, this defense showed up, got their job done, and were almost let down by Tom Brady and the offense.
Yeah. I mean, anytime in the NFL in these days, you hold an opposing team to under 20 points, you did your job well enough for your team to win. And I mean, honestly, both defenses can walk into their locker rooms saying that they did enough for their team to win on Sunday night. But listen, I don't want to say it's the same old Bucs fans, but I mean, a lot of times it's easy for us to slip back into some of our old habits. I had to remind our boy Mike Kewok about, hey, a couple years ago, man, this game was a loss, and he was like, yeah, that's true too, and kind of take it with that silver lining there a little bit. So some familiar tones coming from Bucs Nation on Sunday night as they watch the Buccaneers narrowly defeat the New England Patriots. But there's some other stuff that sounds familiar these days too, and that is how many devices we all have to watch our favorite entertainment. You got one that lets you catch the game live, one that lets you stream your favorite shows. You got sports highlights on your phone, and your best friends, neighbors, boyfriend's password is hooking you up with the rest of the stuff. Well, I'm going to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love and get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. It means no more juggling your remotes. It means no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part is there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. Again, that's directtv.com to learn more about DirecTV Stream. Compatible devices required. Content varies by package.
Now, for those of you new to the show, I'm going to talk a lot about being a hockey dad. And one of the things that I did yesterday morning when I got up at 5:30 to take my son to a tournament, I packed the cooler, threw in the Gatorade, and I threw in the Built bars. They are the go-to, especially in between games, for that boost, a healthy snack, a healthy protein bar. And if you don't know the flavors, here you go. There's coconut, cherry, coconut almond, raspberry, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel. This week, limited time flavor, cookie dough chunk. Now, if you don't know what your favorite flavor is, go ahead and order a mixed box. You're going to get 2 of each of those bars. You're going to be able to figure out what your favorite flavor is. Not only are Built Bars the best tasting protein bar, but they are also good for you. 17 to 18 grams of protein, 130 to 180 calories, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you're going to get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Wrapping things up here on a Victory Monday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. James Yarko, David Harrison, coming to you free and on all platforms, which now includes YouTube. Please check out the show on YouTube. Subscribe while you are there. If you are watching, welcome to the show. We appreciate you. And if you want to be part of the show, you can be like some of these other fans, and you can call in and leave us a voicemail, just like our next caller.
What's up, boys? Tyler from Boston, coming to you from the Patriots land, and my gosh, what a win. And, everybody thinks that Mac Jones had a great game. I agree. Great game by Tom Brady as well, and kick full conspiracy theory, kick full. I don't know if he doinked it for us or not, but man, what a game. Lots of Patriots fans appreciative of Tom, and once it came to game time, they were appreciative. But on, of course, on the Patriots side, naturally, but what a great game. What a great win. Go Bucs. Fire the cannon.
Tyler, it's always great to hear from you. I'm sure you're going to have plenty of people that you can bother in Boston today on this Victory Monday. David, let's go ahead and get into our plays and players of the game. And for me, this was an easy one. The Patriots are marching. They are in a position where they can try to win the game. And on 3rd and 3, Levante David with a pass breakup bats the ball down at the line of scrimmage, moves it to 4th and 3. The Patriots opt to attempt a 56-yard field goal in the pouring rain. Folk misses it. It hits the upright. It had the distance, just wasn't quite on target. If Mac Jones is able to complete that pass and they get a little bit further in for a little bit easier of a field goal opportunity, again, we could be having a very different conversation. But I called him out the past couple of weeks saying that the big time players need to make big time plays.
Yep.
Levante David and Antoine Winfield Jr. did exactly that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, my play of the game is going to be that Antoine Winfield Jr. interception, the very first one, and it's a group effort. You know, Devin White comes screaming in on the young rookie quarterback, Ross Cockrell, I think it was, gets a hand on the ball, tips it, it goes right into Antoine Winfield Jr.'s hands. And I know it's early in the game, and a lot of things happened after that, but it kind of the reason I picked it is kind of an example, a demonstration, if you will, of how much this defense really kind of had Tom Brady's back in this game and that offense's back. Because I mean, you saw it as Mac Jones. I mean, again, what did I say? He completed like 75% of his pass, 78% of his pass, or something like that. Imagine if he gets comfortable earlier than he actually did in this game. And he did. He eventually settled down, he got comfortable, and he started looking really good. And you know, again, maybe people just didn't expect a guy like Mac Jones to be able to do that against this Bucs defense, and that's why they're disappointed. But listen, if it's not for Devin White, you know, hammering him during a pass, if it's not for Ross Cockrell getting a hand on the ball in flight, it's not for Antoine Winfield bringing in that interception. We've seen Buccaneers defenders drop interceptions in the past here. You know, those are big momentum shift types of plays, and if that doesn't happen and Mac Jones is allowed to get comfortable just a little bit earlier, like you said, this game could have a very different outcome. And my player of the game, so that's my play of the game. My player of the game is gonna be Ryan Suckup, and honestly, it's Nick Folk missing that last field goal that makes Ryan Suckup the player of the game for me. I know he missed a field goal as well, but I mean, those conditions, that type of environment, it's prime time. You're trying to avoid the two game losing streak, you know, because I mean, the similarities were there, right? The last time the Buccaneers lost before last weekend was back in November, and the last loss they had was to the Kansas City Chiefs in a back to back losing streak, right? So who had the first loss, or who handed them their first loss? The Los Angeles Rams. So this would have been two back to back losses. The last time they lost, both times were the last times they lost, and the Rams would have been involved in both of them. So a whole lot of demons just needed to be exercised there in New England on Sunday night, and Ryan Suckup came through along with the defense. So yeah, defense for the play of the game, special teams for the player of the game.
On Friday's predictive episode, when we did our predictive players of the game, I said Antoine Winfield Jr. was going to be the player of the game. That came to fruition. He is my player of the game. On that episode, I said he was going to have some key pass breakups and create a turnover. Instead, he creates 2 turnovers with the interception that you mentioned, and then the forced fumble that was recovered by Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
We have to hope that the concussion isn't, you know, actually what happened, and he's going to be fine to play. But if he's unavailable, Mike Edwards will be able to step in, and I have complete faith that Edwards will be able to play up to a starting caliber safety, as we've seen him do time and time again. But
And Richard Sherman will have more than 2 practices.
yeah, there is that as well. So yeah, it was a big game from Antoine Winfield Jr. Again, the big time players on defense needed to make big time plays. Devin White, you had a pick 6 in your hands,
Oh
bro,
man,
and you
he jumped
dropped
that
it.
ball
It was
so bad.
perfect.
Dude, he jumped that ball so well. I said so bad, so well that it ended up behind him. Like that's how much he jumped that route. Is that the ball actually ended up behind him, which is why I didn't catch it. And listen, we're talking about bold predictions and everything. I just want to praise Tom Brady for how close he came to making my bold prediction true.
That
Of
was
9 touchdown passes, having 0, came very very close to making me. Yeah, that was never going to happen. So.
that was pretty epic. So with that, David, we are going to get out of here. A big thank you once again to Greco, Youssef, and Tyler for calling in. If you have some reactions to the Buccaneers' victory over the New England Patriots, you can send us an email to lockedonbucspodcast@gmail.com or give us a call at 813-444-5841. Once again, thank you to everyone for making Locked On Bucs your first listen every day. Make sure you come back tomorrow. We will dive a little bit deeper, share our in-depth takeaways from this week 4 victory over New England. Now, make your second listen the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available on all platforms. Check out everything David and I are doing over at BucsNation.com. Follow along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarko_Bucs, at DHarrison82, and at Bucs_Nation. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, be good to one another. And we thank you so much for joining us right here at Locked On Bucs.